The Florida sun was a relentless beast, clawing at my shoulders and turning my faded grill master apron into a soggy, suffocating rag. Special Agent Daniel Carter, the FBI, was supposed to be on a break of forced gardening leave after dismantling a sprawling human trafficking network that had stretched from Miami to Atlanta. My superiors called it a reward. I called it exile. Either way, I traded my Glock for a paintbrush and my badge for a bucket of sunrise orange paint, slapping it onto the weathered picket fence that bordered my temporary suburban hideout. The rhythmic slap-slap of the brush was oddly soothing, a meditative escape from the chaos of my last case. That is, until she showed up. Her name was Marjorie Henshaw, and she emerged from her pristine lawn across the street like a vulture circling a fresh carcass. She was a squat, wiry woman in her late 50s, her bottle blonde hair teased into a helmet of curls that defied both JRA-VY tie and good taste. She wore a lime green tracksuit adorned with rhinestone slogans blessed and obsessed, live, laugh, lawn that sparkled obnoxiously in the sunlight. In her left hand, she clutched a pair of pruning shears. In her right, a travel mug that I'd bet my pension contained more vodka than coffee. Marjorie wasn't just the neighborhood busybody, she was its self-appointed dictator, the HOA's iron fist in a velvet gardening glove. "Excuse me." Her voice sliced through the humid air like a chainsaw through butter, high-pitched and grating. She marched toward me, her orthopedic sandals slapping the pavement with the precision of a metronome. "Do you have permission to be doing that?" I paused mid-stroke, paint dripping onto the grass, and turned to face her. "Morning, Marjorie," I said, flashing the disarming smile I perfected during undercover ops. "Just freshening up the fence. Thought sunrise orange might liven things up." Her eyes narrowed into slits, scanning me from my scuffed work boots to the sweat-soaked baseball cap perched on my head. "Liven things up or ruin the property values?" she snapped. "I don't recall seeing you around here before. And that color, it's garish. It's an assault on the senses." I dipped the brush back into the can, suppressing a grin. "Just moved in a couple weeks ago. Name's Daniel. Nice to meet you." I extended a hand, figuring CIVY Lighty might buy me a few minutes of peace. She recoiled as if I'd offered her a rattlesnake, clutching her shears tighter. "I'm calling the police," she announced, fishing her phone from fanny packs strapped to her waist. "I don't know who you are or what you're up to, but I've got a feeling about you. A bad one." I raised an eyebrow, watching as she dialed with the speed of a woman who'd memorized 911's number years ago. "The police? For painting my own fence." Her voice escalated as she spoke into the phone, pacing the sidewalk like a caged animal. "Yes, hello, 911. I need to report a suspicious indie VY duel. He's painting his fence, yes. Painting, and I don't think he belongs here. He's a tall guy, scruffy, acting like he owns the place. And that orange? It's a threat to the entire neighborhood's aesthetic." I bit back a laugh. A threat to the aesthetic? Her yard featured a flock of plastic flamingos, so faded they looked like they'd been bleached by the sun, not to mention a mailbox shaped like a dolphin wearing sunglasses. If anyone was committing crimes against taste, it wasn't me. I leaned against the fence, crossing my arms, and waited for the INEVY table. Sure enough, within 10 minutes, a patrol car rolled up, its tires crunching on the gravel-strewn street. Officer Lopez's stocky guy, with a buzz cut and a mustache that screamed, I peaked in high school, stepped out, his expression a mix of exhaustion and confusion. "Ma'am, you called about fence painting?" he asked, glancing at me with a look that said, "Please tell me this is a prank." Marjorie puffed out her chest, emboldened by the arrival of backup. "Yes, officer. This man is suspiciously painting his fence. I've never seen him before, and he refuses to prove he lives here. That house has been vacant for months, probably stolen. The fence, everything." I sighed, pulling my wallet from my back pocket and flipping it open to reveal my FBI badge. I held it up just long enough for Lopez to catch the glint of the gold shield. His eyes widened, and he took a subtle step back. Marjorie, obli VYS, kept ranting. "He's probably some drifter squatting here. That orange is a disgrace. Ma'am, Lopez interrupted, his voice tight. Let's step over to your side of the street and talk this out. He shot me a quick nod, a silent carry-on, and I returned to my painting with a smirk. As I worked, I caught fragments of their conversation drifting across the street. Ma'am, filing a false report with 911 is a misdemeanor, Lopez said, his tone strained. Marjorie's indignation flared. False? Officer, he's clearly up to something. FBI? Don't be absurd, probably printed that badge off eBay. I demand you arrest him for trespassing and HOA violations. Lopez looked like he was praying for a meteor to strike him down and end this ordeal. Eventually, he managed to herd Marjorie back to her flamingo-infested domain, Leah VYing me to my thoughts and my paintbrush. But as the sun climbed higher, something shifted in me. This wasn't just a comical run-in with a nosy neighbor. Marjorie's reaction wasn't just over the top, it was personal. The venom in her voice, the way she'd zeroed in on me, like I was a blight on her perfect little world, it felt rehearsed, calculated. And then there was the neighborhood itself. In the 3 weeks I'd been here, I'd noticed things that didn't add up. Lawns so flawless they could have been AstroTurf. Neighbors who waved a little too enthusiastically. A quiet that felt more like a held breath than suburban serenity. It was all too polished, too staged. I wiped the sweat from my brow and grabbed my phone, dialing my partner, Elena Torres. She picked up on the second ring, her voice dripping with mock exasperation. Danny, I'm on my first coffee of the day. This better be good. Elena, you're not going to believe this, I said, pacing the yard. I'm painting my fence, minding my own business, and some tracksuit tyrant calls 911 on me. Thinks I'm a squatter because I picked the wrong shade of orange. She laughed, a sharp, infectious sound. Let me guess, she got a clipboard and a vendetta? Worse, she's got rhinestones and a superiority complex. But listen, something's off here. This Marjorie Henshaw's not just a Karen on a power trip. She's hiding something. The whole street feels like a front. There was a pause, then Elena's tone shifted. All business. You're supposed to be on leave, Carter. You sure you're not just stir-crazy? Call it gut feeling, I said. Run some checks for me. Start with Marjorie and the HOA board. Look for anything weird, financials, property records, whatever. I got a hunch this place is dirtier than it looks. Elena sighed. Fine, but you owe me. I was planning to binge Real Housewives, not dig through tax filings. You better bring me back some of that awful orange paint as a souvenir. Deal, I said, hanging up with a grin. The spark of a case was igniting in my chest, the kind of thrill I hadn't felt since I'd been sidelined. Marjorie Henshaw had just handed me a puzzle, and I was damn well going to solve it. Over the next few days, my therapeutic fence painting gig morphed into a covert operation. I ordered a pair of binoculars under the guise of birdwatching. Florida's got plenty of egrets to justify it, and set up a tiny security camera disguised as a ceramic turtle by the mailbox. I even took up pruning the overgrown hibiscus bushes along the driveway, perfecting the art of eavesdropping while pretending to wrestle with thorns. Elena worked her magic on the back end, and by Wednesday, she had a prelim report that made my pulse quicken. Okay, Danny, you're going to want to sit down for this, she said over the phone, her voice buzzing with excitement. Your neighborhood? It's a goldmine of weird. First off, Marjorie Henshaw's got a rap sheet petty theft and fraud from the 90s. Nothing major, but she's not as squeaky clean as her lawn suggests. Then there's the HOA president, Victor Slade. Guy's a walking red flag, multiple shell companies, a bankruptcy filing he conveniently forgot to disclose, and a rumor he was tied to a Ponzi scheme in Tampa a decade ago. I whistled low. Slade, huh? He lives 3 houses down, always in a polo shirt, grinning like he's selling timeshares. That's not all, Elena continued. I found a spike in cash deposits at the local credit union, way more than your average suburbanites should be handling. And get this, half the properties on your street have changed hands in the last 2 years, all undervalued sales to the same LLC. Smells like money laundering to me. I glanced out the window, watching Victor Slade water his azaleas with a smug little wave in my direction. What about the poker games I've been hearing about? Neighbor two doors down hosts them every Friday night. Funny you mention that, Elena said. I cross-referenced the address with some chatter on a dark web forum. Looks like those games might be a front for something bigger, maybe a drop point for dirty cash. I'm still digging, but Danny, you've stumbled into a hornet's nest. Or painted my way into one, I quipped, brushing a fleck of sunrise orange off my sleeve. Keep me posted. I'm going to turn up the heat here. If you were the one in this story, how would you react? Would you stand up and fight back, or accept the unreasonable pressure and control from the HOA? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this VY Deo with more people. Your small action gives us the motivation to keep bringing you more intense and engaging stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next VY Deo.